Good evening, everybody. Welcome. This is Veronique Fischer from Noble Sky, and I am Noble Sky's lead trainer. Today, we have a very special interview that we want to share with you. And because of the time difference, it wasn't possible for us to get our special guest on directly as a live. So we will show you a recording instead. And this interview was with a lady called Lorri Quiett, who happens to be a very, very experienced realtor in the Long Beach area. And Long Beach, for those of you that do not really know where it is on the coast of Los Angeles. So it's one of the areas that is near the beach and is quite expensive. And Lori's been a realtor in this area for over 18 years. She also has the distinction of being an extremely um, great equestrian. She actually competes on a regular basis on horse for show horse, so for show, and also is like I am a trainer for Tony Robbins. So she's an extremely accomplished lady, and I do hope that you really enjoy this interview, and this will give you some insight into what is going on currently in the markets in California and in particular in the Los Angeles area. On that note, we are ready and we can now play that video. I hope you enjoy. No sound. Oops, I think we need to do that again because there is no sound. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Just give us a second. Fahan? So, in waiting for the technology to catch up with us, um, let me tell you a couple of things. I don't know if any of you have been to LA, but there's different areas in LA, and of course, people think of in LA about some of the ghettos areas, right? Like downtown LA is not that bright and everything, but at the same time, there's a lot of communities all the way up the coast from Long Beach and all the way up. Of course, everybody knows the names of Santa Monica and Venice, California. These are all in around the Los Angeles area. And these are all quite expensive areas as well. Much more expensive than the ones we normally look at. And as you will hear from the conversation that I will have with Lorri as of now. Let's try this again. Okay, I'm sorry. We're having technical difficulties. We tested everything this afternoon and it was working perfectly fine. And I do hope we can bring it in. So let me see maybe if I can share for mine instead. and maybe that will help. Yeah, that happens sometimes, right? Technology is sometimes our best friend and sometimes not. Okay, so let me see if I can play this. Um, okay, I can Okay, sorry, bear with me. We're nearly there. Let me press play. Hello, this is Veronique from Noble Sky, and I am their lead trainer. And today it is my great honor and privilege to welcome my friend Lorri Quiett to this show. Lorri is a real estate agent and a realtor in Long Beach, California. So we always get questions about California in our business because everybody thinks of California, for the US. And usually what we say to people is it's a bit expensive. Very true. Right? So Lorri's been, one of the reasons why I really wanted to interview Lorri today was Lorri has been in this business for 18 years. She's a very experienced realtor, and she's one of the top agents as well in Long Beach. So Lorri, tell me something. What is going on in California with the property market? We hear so many differing views.
Yeah, it is absolutely crazy right now. We have historically low inventory and interest rates below 3%, which is nuts. I mean, it's like having free money. And we had a bit of a bottleneck with the COVID stuff happening, where for a while there we weren't essential employees. Nobody wanted people in their homes, and so we were kind of at a standstill for a couple of months.
Yes.
And now that we're back working, it is like an explosion. Every realtor I know is insanely busy. We're, mostly with buyers, there still continues to be not a lot of inventory on the market. So anybody who is, it's a great time to sell. Anybody who is selling, assuming that they've priced reasonably, not some crazy number, but if they're in the ballpark, they can definitely know that they're going to get multiple offers, that they're going to, bidding war. We've got multiple offers, bidding wars, and crazy amounts over list price. And a lot of people are buying without an appraisal contingency.
Oh,
which
wow.
means, so they're saying, hey, I'm going to toss in the extra cash if this thing doesn't appraise. And that's not normal. It's normal if you're buying you're a gazillionaire and you're buying a mansion overlooking the ocean. Okay, fine. You might say, whatever, I don't care if I have to kick in an extra $20,000. But, regular average people buying a starter home for $750,000, which is what it is really for a decent starter home here, it's very unusual that you would pay over an appraised value, but yet that's what people are having to do to get their bids accepted.
Wow.
Yeah. The other thing that we're seeing that's been very interesting and very different is when you have a buyer that's putting more than 20% down, sometimes we're getting appraisal waivers. So the lenders are not even going out and doing any appraisals. They're just saying, yep, we're good. Thank you.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, it's super interesting. We've never had that before. I'm sure the appraisers are not really happy, but it's very helpful when you have one that is over, it's been bid up, and you don't have to worry about it because the banks will only lend a percentage on the appraisal.
Right.
So if you have to appraise it and it's overpriced, then the buyer's like, woohoo, I don't have to kick in extra money.
Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, one of the reasons why we don't really do a lot in California is the prices are so high anyway, right?
Yeah.
You're talking a completely different ballgame to everything else in the US. Are you seeing purchases from people that are moving into the state, or they're just upgrading their houses?
We're actually seeing people leaving the state.
Yes. Okay.
That's generally what we're hearing, is that people are leaving the state. So it's people, we still have the first time buyers, the millennials is obviously a huge group, bigger than the baby boomers. And we're starting to see the millennials really now deciding to purchase.
Yeah.
Where before they were kind of still at home and doing whatever they were doing. So now millennials are coming into the market and buying their first homes, but they're, not super young anymore. Whatever the age is, I don't know, like mid-20s or late 20s or something.
Yes, like 20 to 30s, right? Early 30s,
yeah.
right? Yes.
So we're seeing that's so that's a large group of people that are starting to purchase, and then we are seeing a lot of move up homes. A lot of not very many contingent offers, because in a competitive market, it's very difficult to get your offer accepted if you have something to sell, unless you're pretty far along on selling that other property, to be able to purchase something new. So we're not seeing a ton of that. And I think there is a little bit of a slowdown in the really, really, really expensive homes.
Yeah. So can you give me an example of pricing on a few things that have sold recently?
Okay, so I just helped a couple find a house. We have been looking since, gosh, I want to say we've been looking 7-8 months trying to find a property for them. She's a school teacher. They're actually a really cool couple. They just had their first baby. He works for Yamaha selling, whatever musical equipment. So it's like a normal couple, normal family. Just wanted a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Don't even care if it's big, like 1,200 square feet was fine. And they started out with a price range of $650. And there was absolutely nothing.
Wow.
I mean, nothing. And if we did find something even close to that, it had 20 offers and it needed a ton of work. So we were really depressed, quite honestly. But now the combination of the interest rates going down, and he got a raise, thank God, we were able to secure a property for him. It was listed at $740, I want to say, and we got it at $765, and it appraised. And, so that was good, and we're closing escrow next week on it. Okay. So that's just an example. That's a starter home, very basic, a little bit of remodeling, not a ton. Like the kitchen was granite countertops, but not the style people want right now. The cabinets are not white, so it's not even like bells and whistles, like woo. They're going to want to do some work on it eventually to make it a little bit more up to date. But it did have like air conditioning and, forced air and stuff.
So not that big of an investment to upgrade, but still it needs to be upgraded a little bit.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have another girl that we just closed on a property. She was looking to, the school system was the big key thing, and she wanted a pool. We don't have a lot of pools here. I don't know why, but you just don't see houses with pools. And anyway, she found a house. She sold. Luckily, she was able to buy without selling her other house. We found a house. It's about 2,000 square feet in a very nice neighborhood. And I think she paid I think it was listed at 1.2, and we got it for like $1,150,000. Wow. And that was a flip house, renovated. So in, some of the nicer neighborhoods, you are really, $1 million doesn't get you much.
Wow.
Even $2 million, I have clients right now with a $2.5 million budget. They just came to me and I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And we started looking in, they want Manhattan Beach or Hermosa Beach. 2.5 million buys you, like, it's unbelievable. It's like, I mean, seriously, Long Beach, where I'm based, is one of the least expensive cities to buy by the ocean.
Yes.
It's like a little hidden secret. We love it here. It's kind of funky, kind of weird. It's an awesome place. But the other beach cities, the prices have just skyrocketed. And to think for $2.5 million, you've got to like give up things is just crazy.
That's surprising. Yeah.
But that is what we have here.
So the market is still basically super strong, and you said you have very little supply. Have you seen, I heard that in other states anyway, people at the beginning of COVID, people pulled their houses off the market. Did it happen for you as well?
Most people were putting them on hold because I think there was a lot of fear about having people coming into the home. As a result of that, it's changed the way that I do business. So, for instance, one of the things that I didn't like to do was they call them a Matterport tour. which is, if you haven't seen them, you will see them eventually. It's
Yeah.
a walk-through tour of the home, and you can literally like move yourself through the entire home. And I never wanted to do those. I didn't like them because my feeling is that when it's going to be a single family home that you want to live in, it's a feeling. Like I wouldn't have bought the home that I live in if I had seen it on a Matterport tour. I would have been like, this layout is jacked up. It's like what were they? Would have been a what were they thinking? But when I came to the house, it was the feeling the house gave me. So I don't want to take that away from buyers of my listings. I want them to come in the house and feel the feeling of the house. Much to my horror, that's not how we're doing business now. It's really something that we have to offer as, when I'm thinking about listing a property and I'm going against other realtors, it's like, yeah, we're going to do professional photography. We're going to do drone shots. And we're going to do a Matterport tour, but it does highlight, like the last one I did, my seller's looking at it and he had a huge dent on his fridge. And the dent was like, woo! And he was so upset. He's like, oh my God, my fridge, but it's like, well, you have a dent on your fridge, but I don't want a buyer to come in and focus on that. So it's changed the business model. So a lot of people were worried about putting their house on the market. What's it going to be like with people coming in? There's been a whole lot of paperwork, realtors and paperwork. That's the way it goes. A lot of paperwork surrounding, that you're verifying that you're not sick, that you haven't been around sick people. There's a lot of protocols to get in. Some people are saying, after you show the property, you realtor need to clean it. I'm like, yeah, that's happening. But anyways, sure, I'll wipe down your whole property. Yeah, no problem. I'm like, next. But it has made people nervous and worried. But most of those people, I would say, I don't see many on hold anymore. I think most of those people, because it is such a competitive market and because they can get a really killer price, they're coming back on right now with various levels of safety protocols.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And you were talking earlier about properties being bid up, getting more and more offers. Do you have a couple of examples?
I have a condo example, which I know we're talking mainly about single families, but I just went through it. I've had it on the buyer's side. This is one that I had on the listing side, but with my buyers, it's been multiple offers every time. Mm-hmm. And we've had to shorten up timelines. We've had to shorten up the ability of the buyer to back out. We've had to come up with prices that are just, way over, 10, over 20.
The offer price as well, right?
Over the list price, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so as a buyer's agent, I'm constantly trying to figure out, what do we have to do? What do we have to come in at to be able to get this done? I try to get it out of the other realtor. Sometimes they'll tell me, sometimes they won't. On the listing side, the example that I can give you is a condo that honestly had a very weird layout, but it was mid-century. It had a very mid-century vibe. And someone had built, with super high ceilings, somebody had built a loft. And you could stand up in the loft, but it was not a permitted loft. It wasn't permitted space. And the stairs were like halfway in the living room. Like you could barely fit a couch in there. Oh boy, when I got the listing, thinking this is not good, and I knew my seller wanted to price it pretty aggressively. The last unit that had sold in that complex sold for $425. It's 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It sold about a year ago, so it's only so relevant. But an appraiser does look at what's going on in the complex. So we listed it at $465, and within, my phone rang off the hook, and within 3 days I had 11 offers. Wow. And it bid up to 501 with no appraisal contingency. And luckily that was one. It was 20% down. They waived the appraisal. So kind of crazy. There's no way that thing was worth that money. You can't even put a couch in the stupid living room, but it had a lot of cool things. And because it had a mid-century vibe, it was a cool place, and I think that's what people saw, and it had a nice vibe. There were a lot of really great things about it, but $501,000,
Wow. Yeah, these are seriously high prices. We're used to dealing a lot with Florida, Jacksonville and all these other places. So the average size of the properties that we're looking at, maybe 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and for $200,000, right? So this is a very different market. What
I mean, that sounds like free to me.
Yeah, exactly. What do you
I'll give you the cash.
What do you see for? Well, go ahead. We'll help you invest it. No problem. What do you see until the end of the year in your market? Do you have any? I know it's difficult to have visibility, but what's your feeling about it?
Well, so far everything's been really strange. So normally summer months, July and August, are extremely slow. Those are typically July and August, and then November, December, beginning of January. Those are the very slow times in real estate. Summer, everybody's on vacation. The other times is extremely busy, but because our busy season, March, April, May, was June, had really, a couple months of nothing, and then kind of ramping up. We're seeing a much busier market than is normal right now, like a way busier market. So I'm assuming that's going to keep going. I mean, we've never seen interest rates this low. I mean, it's nuts. So, I'm guessing it's going to keep going straight through until the holidays. I don't know what would change. Of course, we don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen with all of the furloughs, with all of the, the moratorium on foreclosures. I mean, many people are saying, hey, we're going to end up in a foreclosure market. There's, and I'm gearing up for that. I'm already kind of up and running, ready to go to foreclosure land when it comes. But I'm not seeing any signs of it.
Yeah. But it takes time anyway, right? I think the average time is 2 years for foreclosure.
Yeah. So it might be a while before we're back to that. And so for now, I'm just focusing on, doing the best I can to get people in properties.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So you've been in the market for 18 years. So what happened in 2008? I know it was a different crisis, but there were quite a few foreclosures. Is there anything to learn from that time that you can bring up to that, to now?
I think the thing that really happened then had to do with lending practices.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, so much governmental regulation came into play.
Yeah.
And people are not doing, I mean, every once in a while you hear about a, no income asset only loan, or like you do hear occasionally about those kinds of things, but COVID pulled a ton of that back. It really shifted the lending market. So we were starting, it was conservative, and then we were starting to see some other loan products. We don't tend to get a lot of that here because people are very wealthy in California, mostly. I mean, if you're buying a condo for $500,000, you have to make a good amount of money per year to be able to do that. So when COVID hit, a lot of the lending changed. Like, for instance, right now, to get a high balance loan is a much higher interest rate than a conforming loan amount.
Yeah.
Jumbo loans really changed. It's much harder to get a jumbo loan than it was before. Yes. So we are seeing, shifts in the lending environment that I think are mostly as a result of what we saw back then. So I don't think we're going to head that way again. It's just really who's losing their jobs, who can't pay their mortgage, whose renters are not paying. We have an eviction moratorium. You can take them to small claims court for the money, but you can't get rid of them right now. Yeah, and we also just got put into place rent control laws as well, which have to do with just cause eviction. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that just happened this last year. There were some really big movements in terms of rent control in my area. Rent caps, just cause eviction challenges, when you're able to have some, like if you're selling your property, somebody's going to move in, can you, ditch the tenant? It's not that simple anymore. You can't just give them notice and off you go.
Yeah, California is not a landlord-friendly place in the first place, is it?
No, it is not. It was for a lot of years. Yeah. It was like in certain areas, Long Beach for sure. Los Angeles City always had rent control, so like New York City, it had, really, really, really low, rental properties, really low, and no ability for people to, recoup a market rent, just like New York City. And those people never leave. They're like, they die in their apartments.
I had one of those in Paris when I was in my early 20s. I wasn't going anywhere.
No, you're like, I'm croaking in this damn thing. I'm not giving up my low rent.
Well, until I moved to Hong Kong, so then I didn't need it, right? But yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Once you have those kind of deals, there's no reason to let it go.
Yeah, right. And then that's the prices, you know. Yeah. I mean, that's really what that does. So it's a bummer they started putting that stuff in place. I understand why, but you know.
Yes, it makes the market very different, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That was very illuminating, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Yes. If anybody wants to buy a property for themselves in California, I will send them your way.
Yes, thank you.
Because having a caring realtor is always a helpful thing. And yes. I appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. I know it's getting quite late today, so thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right. Well, I hope that was illuminating. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment on one of those recordings, and we can either get back to you or give you the information as soon as we see your comments. At the moment, there doesn't seem to be any comments, so I'm going to end for tonight. It is Friday night, nearly 10 o'clock. I wish you a wonderful weekend, and we will be back online on a Monday at 9:30 as usual, 9:30 p.m. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.